there, my name's Doane, and today I'm going to talk to you about unfair treatment by employers during COVID-19. Let's get started. So, I'm going to be talking about how the outbreak of COVID-19 has disrupted the lives of millions of people around the world. In this presentation, I will discuss the ways in which employers may be failing to take adequate measures to ensure fair and proper treatment of their employees, and how employees can act if faced with such treatment. Let's get started. The first reason is being denied payment for work that they've already performed. A large majority of businesses had to close their door due to the virus. This left a large majority of employees without work. The problem is that a few companies stripped their employees of their final paychecks of money earned before the closings began. It is illegal for companies to withhold payment of hours employees have already worked. So, if faced with this issue, employees have the power to file a lawsuit against their employer. As it's already illegal for companies not to pay their employees in the best of times, it is brutal for them to do so in a time when a majority of people are struggling financially. This exact scenario has made national headlines when a restaurant, the Tableside Restaurant Group, in Florida withheld payment from 70 employees for the 2-week time period of March 17th and the 31st. So, if an employer chooses to withhold payment during a pandemic, employees have the power to fight for some well-deserved money. The second reason is being denied overtime payment. As we know, essential workers have never been needed more than they do right now during the pandemic. Some examples of essential workers include, but are not limited to, doctors, nurses, EMTs, police officers, firefighters, grocery store employees, public health officials, and researchers. These individuals are working harder than ever, and in most cases, they're working well over their normal hours. Employers should be paying employees for their overtime work according to the Fair Labor Standards Act, which states that employees are required to receive at least 1 1/2 of their regular pay for hours worked over 40 in a single work week. Unfortunately, some employers are not doing what they should for their employees. In this case, employees have the ability to fight for their overtime payment. The third reason is having to put up with an employer violating wage and hour laws while working from home during the pandemic. Working from home is usually more work than actually stepping into the office. The work never seems to stop, and this is a struggle shared by many during the pandemic. While many employees are working from home, some employers are expecting much more of their employees. This includes asking them to work during unpaid time, no compensation for the expenses of working from home, not providing accommodations for employees with disabilities, and violating hour and wage laws. Working remotely has created a clear lack of understanding for the line between personal life and work life. If an employer has shown a clear lack of boundaries while working remotely, this is just another reason that an employee could sue. The fourth reason is being fired for not wearing face masks, gloves, and other protective gear. During the pandemic, protecting yourself with proper protective gear is essential. With a large shortage of protective gear, employees are being tasked with finding their own or even going without it. Many nurses are being wrongfully terminated for not wearing proper protective gear when working with sick patients, even though they're not being provided the PPE from their employer. If an employee is wrongfully terminated for not wearing protective gear when they were unable to find it due to a shortage, then they may be able to sue his or her employer. The fifth reason is being fired for complaining or speaking publicly about unsafe working conditions or safety procedures. If an employee chooses to speak up about unsafe working conditions and are terminated, they may be entitled to sue their employer. It is unfair for workers to lose their jobs over demanding proper safety equipment and proper safety procedures. Some nurses were let go after pointing out to hospital management that there was a shortage of proper protective gear. The CDC recommends that everybody covers their nose and mouths to limit the risk of infection. If an employee was forced to work without proper protective gear, they may have a case on unsafe working conditions. Employees do have the right to speak up about health concerns in the workplace, and it's not right for an employer to fire an employee for wanting a safe work environment. The last reason is being forced to work while sick or not being allowed to take time off from work. During the pandemic, if workers are sick, they can take up to 12 weeks of job-protected unpaid leave. This means that after that 12-week time period, when they return, their job will be waiting for them. But the U.S. Department of Labor recently passed a temporary rule that grants paid leave under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. The FFCRA was effective as of April 2nd, 2020, and is applicable until December 31st, 2020. This act requires that certain employers provide up to 80 hours of paid sick leave to employees who need to take time off from work in relation to COVID-19. If an employee were to experience a situation comparable to this, talking to an attorney can clarify if the act applies to their employer. Something like this would mean if their family member had COVID-19, if they had COVID-19, or anything along those lines. So, in summary, while all of these are reasons employees can sue their employer, the success of the cases vary depending on the situation. Cases stemming from COVID-19 are often complex and really hard to navigate. The various protocols related to the virus are suggestions and recommendations, while only a few employers are truly breaking the law. This would be like them withholding payment for hours that have already been worked. Cases of negligence and intentional wrongdoing on behalf of the employer are the most common types of torts that have to do with these cases. Thank you so much for watching my presentation, and this is my Works Cited page. Thanks for watching!